All right, hello everyone, welcome. This is the very first of 3 pop-up live stream webinars that is hosted in partnership between Circular Design Lab, a 100% volunteer-driven citizen initiative focused on a variety of big complex challenges that the world is facing. And one of those is air pollution. And this a group of volunteers out of that Circular Design Lab has partnered with the Thailand Clean Air Network, one of which the co-founders is speaking today to share a little bit more about what is it that we can do when we think about air pollution as one of these big challenges for the world. But then of course, in the backdrop of the COVID pandemic that we're all facing, we see more and more research connecting the dots between the fatality rates and the impact of poor air quality. At the same time, we're a Bangkok-based initiative, and we are looking around the country, around the region, and there's significant issues happening not only with COVID, but literally in the northern Thailand area. Some of the AQI in the past month has been completely hazardous and off the charts. So we're going to hear a little bit more about that context in detail next week. But this week, we're going to set the scene, paint the picture, and learn from some of the experts and those working in the spaces between policy, medicine, and then on the ground from a civil society perspective. So we have 2 amazing co-moderators, also co-leads for the Circular Design Lab Air Pollution Track, and that's Soma, as well as Laura, and I'll pass it over to you two to share a little bit more about how today is going to run in the next hour.
Thank you, Courtney. So first of all, welcome and happy Earth Day. Today is Earth Day and it's also the premiere of our live stream. So today we have a very special session and very hot topic, right? Air pollution and COVID-19. My name is Soma. I'll be your moderator for today. And let me just do a little Thai plug right here. สวัสดีค่ะยินดีต้อนรับนะคะชื่อส้มนะคะเดี๋ยวจะมาช่วยเป็น moderator ให้ในวันนี้นะคะจริงๆตอนแรกอะค่ะก็จะจัดเป็นภาษาไทยเนาะแต่ว่าพอดีคนที่ register มาส่วนใหญ่จะเป็นinternational audience นะคะวันนี้เราเลยจัดเป็นภาษาอังกฤษแต่ยังไงเดี๋ยวยังมี translation เป็นภาษาไทยนะคะใน chat box นะคะ so welcome everybody and let's get started. Let's hear from our first speaker. คุณวีนา please introduce yourself. You are muted.
Sorry, still a newbie. Hello, สวัสดีค่ะ My name is Weena. I am one of the co-founder of the Thailand Clean Air Network. We are basically a volunteer-driven initiatives by professionals who care very deeply about trying to find long-term solutions to the air pollution crisis we have here in Thailand.
And next we have คุณหมอหมองนะคะ Please introduce yourself.
Hello, I'm Dr. Mong, but my real name is Dr. Rangsarit Kanchanavanit. I'm a cardiologist working in the Faculty of Medicine in Chiang Mai University, but my other role is I work in conservation in the environment education for children also.
Amazing, thank you. And our last speaker for today, Mr. Ben, please. Kun Ben ka.
Hi there, my name's Ben Savasti or Ben Sawadiwat in Thai. My main line of work actually is child protection and combating human trafficking. But my passion definitely now is doing something about the terrible situation of air pollution and forest fires in Chiang Mai.
Wow, I mean, seriously, how the air situation out there is out of control at the moment. Let me get Kun Veena to start the panel off, please. Please do share your points.
Okay.
And if you have any question, please do log on to menti.com and use the code 975587, and we can ask questions there. Please take it away, Kun Veena.
Thank you so much for the introduction, Kun Som. I think that what we're trying to raise today is the issue about the connection between air pollution and COVID-19. And the point really is that the fact that many regions in the world or where you live, if the quality of air is bad, it really compromises your health, and particularly your lungs. And with that, it means that you're compromising the chance of you actually being susceptible to COVID-19 is higher. The point I really want to make is that COVID-19 is a public health emergency, but air pollution is much deadlier. As many people would have heard globally, the number of fatalities based on the WHO estimates is about 7 million people are now dying from air pollution. There was a University of Chicago study that's done about annually that came out at the end of 2018. And in that study, they looked at air quality globally. And Thailand is actually ranked as the 7th most polluted country in the world. That's out of 192 countries. So it's no small matter. Air pollution shortens the average life of Thais by more than 2 years. And the worst city for this is actually Chiang Rai, where you're dying about 4 years earlier, right? To quantify this in terms of mortality, there was a study that was done by the World Bank and the University of Washington. And in that study, the deaths in Thailand that's linked to air pollution is almost 50,000, about 49,000 deaths. And that's in 2013, right? So to kind of put it in perspective, the mortality figures that we're looking at now due to COVID-19, I mean, the highest numbers as of today that I've seen is about 41,000, and that's in the US. So that's just to give you a perspective of how deadly air pollution actually is. With COVID, we face the risk of contracting a highly contagious virus, right? But with air pollution, it's a certainty. It's not a risk because we all breathe the same air. Air pollution is a very, very complex situation. It's a very complex challenge. It requires an equally complex and multifaceted approach to resolve this. What happened about a couple of years ago is a group of people, just normal active citizens who are professionals in our own field. We got together because we could no longer stand having to breathe this very toxic air. And so we formed together into a group that we call the Thailand Clean Air Network. Pretty much volunteering our time because we're bounded by the same cause, which is that we believe that we need to find long-term solutions to protect the air that we breathe, because ultimately it is to protecting the inalienable right that we all have to breathe clean air. I'm actually an economist by training, so I think I have the prerogative to talk about something that most people might not want to speak about, which is the elephant in the room. And that's the root cause of air pollution. And really, it's about growth irregardless models that we here in Thailand and many nations in the world follow, right? To grow irregardlessly, blindly. Because specifically today, it's the 50th anniversary of Earth Day. I think something that air pollution and the pandemic crisis that we're facing right now really sends a very strong message to all of us. And that is the importance of us humans having to coexist and habitat with other life forms in this world, in this place that we call home. And I just wanted to end with one quote that to me speaks a lot. And it's a quote from Carl Sagan, who has said that anything else that you are interested in is not going to happen if you cannot breathe the air or drink the water. Don't sit this one out. Do something. You are, by accident of faith, alive at this very critical moment in the history of our planet. So that's the sort of final message I want to send, is that I really think that, I know it sounds like a really difficult and challenging problem and very, very hard to face. But I think what had happened 50 years ago in the US, which really culminated in the Earth Day movement, was just ordinary people saying they cannot take this anymore. So they actually walked the streets, and it took 20 million Americans walking the streets to cause the government, and that was government under President Nixon, who was not known as the most environmentally friendly government by any stretch of the imagination. But that movement resulted ultimately in the passage of the US Clean Air Act, and actually galvanized the beginning of the environmental movement in the US. Because ultimately, it's not about being a tree hugger. It's about our well-being and our health and our survivability in this earth. And that's the message I wanted to send today. Thank you.
For sure, thank you. I was so surprised. I do go to Chiang Mai and Chiang Rai a lot, and I was so shocked at the quality of the air right now. Let's move over to Dr. Mong. Can you please share with us how are things in Chiang Mai right now, please?
The condition. Hello, everyone. Dr. Mong speaking. Actually, the air quality has been improved quite a bit for a few days now. We able to enjoy. When we said improve, because we had a new norm that we had been in a hazardous area zone for many days. So whenever we had a slightly less, level of PM2.5, we thought that we are very happy with orange or red zone instead of purple zone. So anyway, we are a bit better now at the moment. Yes.
And how is the COVID situation in Chiang Mai at the moment?
It's pretty good. There has been no new cases for 2 weeks now for Chiang Mai, and our ICUs are not overwhelmed. The patients who've been treated have been discharged, most of them. So the situation is under control at the moment.
And what's your biggest concern right now regarding COVID-19 and the air pollution situation in Chiang Mai?
Okay, the two things might be linked if you heard from some of the studies that just published. So there are a group from the Harvard University that published a study from the United States to show that there is a association between the area with high pollution and the higher death rate. When you say high death rate, this is the number of deaths per population rather than case fatality. This has, of course, there is a concern, and I think we all understand that with our experience with other respiratory disease, that people who are exposed to pollution, they, of course, they are prone because their endothelium or their the cells in the airways are inflamed. They are most susceptible to infection. But however, this link is only a casual link. We hadn't been able to. It's not yet proof. Cause and effect yet. But however, the study had shown that for every 1 microgram per cubic meter increase in PM2.5, we increase about 15% of mortality. But I think this, we had to be a bit skeptical about this study yet because the methodologies are not perfect. So we need to certainly have to look into it a bit more. Yeah, but it's alarming. Yeah, and we what I want to actually stress, I think people are usually get excited when things, acute effect of something that happened very quickly. But with air pollution, it's actually the acute exposure that increases in the rate of illness, whether respiratory or other system, is not actually not that high. If you look at the statistic of acute exposure, you wouldn't see things dramatically, and you don't feel it that much. It's only increased about 3%, which there could be other factors that play a role. But what we really concern is the long-term exposure rate, and I think this is very important to understand. The easiest analogy is that if you smoke today, say a package of cigarette, you wouldn't feel ill today. You might have sore throat, you might have a little bit of coughing, but it's the long-term exposure which increase the risk of 20 or 30%. And every 22 microgram per mil of PM2.5 is equivalent to smoking 1 cigarette. And this is, nobody can choose to smoke or not. Everybody exposed to this from they're born until they die. So this is what we're trying to convince people that this risk is real. And I think a lot of people still don't see this, because when people die, doctors never write down on the death certificate that they die from PM2.5 or things like that, because they would die from cancer, they would die from heart disease, they would die from stroke. Same thing, we don't say whether they died from smoking. It's risk factors for for getting those disease. So if the problem, I think the policymaker has not realized or have not been convinced about these. They hadn't understand this epidemiological data yet, which if they project into 5 or 10 years, it will cost us tremendously economically.
For sure. So it's definitely an invisible killer. And we're going to come back to you and ask more questions in a bit. And let's move over to...
If I can come in, we have quite a few questions coming from the participants. So I'd just like to ask one follow-up. while we're here. What is your perception about how people in Thailand understand the links between air pollution and COVID?
I would say not enough at all, and I think there is a inequality of the air pollution problem. That you can see a lot of many aspects of inequality of access to the knowledge and inequality to protect themselves in many ways. I think they, as I've been telling, that people are more concerned about acute effect, and they don't seem to think that it's affect. Many of them thinks it doesn't affect them so much. It's just dry eye and a little bit of sore throat and running nose, but it's not. Doesn't seem to cause serious illness to them, so they don't feel that it's a big problem. So because the long term is something you can't see, you have to understand the epidemiological effects of it in long term. So yeah, I would say not enough. Even the people who should be understand this, the policy makers, even the public health ministry of some people who have to plan this, I don't feel that they realize the size of the problem. They've been trying to address the problem, but it's not the effort that they put in certainly do not match the scale of the problem that we are facing.
Definitely, yes. That is a very big concern for all of us at the moment. Do you have any more questions, Laura?
Actually, can I jump in quickly just to add on to what Momong has just said? Just on the point about not being able to quantify the impact. So as part of the Thailand Clean Air Network, what we've done is we've been involved. We are a multidisciplinary group. So we have environmental economists, environmental lawyer, we have air pollution scientists, people of all walks of life to help us on this. And one of the things we did was we actually analyzed the cost of air pollution for Thailand. The problem is with PM2.5, we don't have enough data to do this analysis, but we've actually done it for PM10, right? And for an increase of PM10, the impact has been quantified for 2018. The impact of air pollution for Thailand is worth 2.06 trillion baht. So that's an equivalent of 12.64% of Thailand's GDP. And we don't know how bad PM2.5 is. It will be much worse, because it's much smaller and it goes much deeper into our lungs, into our hearts. Yep, so I just want to add that point, that's all.
Anybody else want to add anything before we move on to Kunben? We'll come back to you definitely more about the PM2.5. But let's hear from Kunben as well. How are things in Chiang Mai at the moment, and how is Blue Sky Chiang Mai?
Okay, well, Blue Sky Chiang Mai, as I said before, my main work actually is social anthropology and social development. But I got into Blue Sky because I just couldn't sit back and do nothing. 2 years ago, the air quality was just going worse, from worse to worse to worse. And I said, well, what does the government want us to do? And the government said, if you see forest fires, report to this number and we'll get back to you. So I did that for 1 week, reported to the government that there's a forest fire here and a forest fire there through their Line app. And not once did they get back to me. So I said, look, I've given government a chance. Now I'm going to go out and see what we can do, me and my colleagues. We decided to provide support to the local firefighters. Now, when I was much younger, I must say, I've actually did volunteer for firefighting. And I can tell you, it's an absolutely hell job in Thailand. You just have the most primitive equipment. I fought fires at Hoi Tung Tau 25 years ago. And you have to walk up the mountain before you even get to where you have to work. And the closer you get to the fire, you begin to choke from the smoke. I vomited, and I wasn't even at the fire yet. Then you get to the fire area, worn out, and then you have to fight the fire, and it's changing direction. It's very easy to get surrounded, and you just, it's a hell job. So that's why I started to say, okay, I'm going to support firefighting units in our area. Our area is Doi Suthep Doi Pui National Park. We support 8 firefighting units from the area north of the park, Hoi Sai, right down to Op Khan. So we supply once a week. So for 2 months, over 2 months now, I've been sending in weekly equipment and supplies to 8 firefighting units. And we're very careful not to duplicate. So before I go in, I phone them. What do you need? Is the government helping you yet? And if the government's helping, then I go elsewhere. But I can tell you the government only helped at the very last minute when the fires have got to the worst level and things are starting to improve. Massive assistance comes in from the government. And I don't know why it doesn't come before. We know this problem is going to happen every year. I talked to the authorities and they told me at the end of last year, Ben, don't help next year because the government, we've got the budget, we've learned the lesson, we're ready. But for 2 months, again, the same story, no support on the ground level for local firefighters. Now, it's not my job to fund local firefighters, I might say, but if I'm suffering from the smoke, you can bet that I'm going to help them to do the job, raise their morale. It's a dangerous job, and help them any way I can. So that's what we do for 3 months a year. At the end of it, we're now at the end, I will now do an evaluation with the firefighters of the hotspots and what caused the burning in our area. And from our evaluation last year, you could see that for Doi Suthep National Park, it was what we call hunter-gatherers, hunters and gatherers of forest products. No agricultural fires here, so we don't have to be distracted by agro-industry. It's all a traditional way of life, collecting forest products and hunting. So after that, the next phase of our project is that we have a joint project working with Metjo University and Chiang Mai University to encourage the sustainable collection of forest products. Now, you can't go in there and say no to the villagers. They feel this is their right. If you throw them out of national park, they will get angry and they'll light fires in response. So you have to give them some tangible benefit if you want them to stop burning. So we're looking towards certification of forest products without burning. We believe that there is a high value market that people will buy forest products if they haven't come from burnt areas. We've got a network of supermarkets, top hotels, top restaurants, ready to buy sustainable forest products. So we're working in supply chain here, encouraging, promoting sustainable forest products. The last thing we're doing is working with youth leaders from the schools in the worst hit areas. So we look at, say, Marim, where were the worst hotspots last year, and then we arrange workshops for these schools. We bring in experts, say like Dr. Sompon. She came to give a talk to the high school kids. I invited Dr. Mong, but unfortunately Dr. Mong was not free that time to talk to the kids. And then on the second day, we took them into the forest to understand about the ecosystem. We actually paid some of the villagers who are hunters and gatherers to act as guides, because we want to, we value their indigenous knowledge if they don't burn the forest. So this is another thing to involve them in tourism. So they took us to all the spots where they grow mushrooms. They taught the kids this and that. This is where wild pig have their babies in this bamboo thicket here. It was really fascinating for the kids to learn respect for nature. And the last part of the workshop, we got the experts in from Metjo University to teach kids how to seed mushrooms in forest. Now, these mushrooms that the villagers love are called het hop. They are so popular, but they can only grow in partnership, symbiosis symbiotic relationship with certain trees. So you can't farm them. That's why they're purely a forest product. But you can actually seed forest areas, and not just seed with het hop. If you reintroduce, forest fires have destroyed so many species of mushrooms that villagers used to be able to sell before. With het hop, they only have a 1 month period harvest. That's they get a nice bit of pocket money for 1 month. If they practice sustainable collection forest products, mushrooms, pakwan, other things, for 8 months, they can get a sustainable income from the forest if they do not burn. And last year's National Park Act, Article 65, actually opens the way for villagers, as long as they're local villagers, to register with National Park and sustainability collect products. So you must allow villagers to have an income. Suppression won't work here. And the last thing we did in this workshop was to provide seed money for local youth leaders to think of ways to improve air quality in the different communities. So we're now evaluating those projects. So that's just a little bit about the things we do.
And you are in Chiang Mai at the moment, correct?
Yes.
How many years has the fire been going on in Chiang Mai? And why is this year so terrible and it's been ongoing and it's not even stopping at the moment?
Well, let's see, I started working with the Royal Project actually 40 years ago. And we definitely had fires then. I would say maybe we weren't so aware of air pollution 40 years ago. We didn't have these nice little gadgets to measure it. But I really feel the fires are much worse the last 5 years. Chiang Mai, we are very weak on base data. This really makes it hard for us to tackle the problem. We're weak on base data. But all of our gut feeling is that this year, the fires are much worse. Partly due to climate, the very dry conditions on the mountain, the fires are lit and they become uncontrollable very quickly. Uncontrollable, too dangerous for human beings to try to put out. And we don't have heavy equipment like in any other country, forest firefighting, big air tankers with fire retardant. We just send up poorly trained, ill-equipped people to risk their lives in a very ineffective way. So we suffer more air pollution. If we had proper response to firefighting, we could very quickly reduce air pollution. So that there, you know, advocacy for to government to give local, provincial commands the support they need. Like this year, we have a good governor. He's really aware of the issues. We have good organization among civic society, maybe too good. But even still, we failed this year, firstly because of COVID. With a single command structure, it's like it can only handle a single problem at one time. So the moment we were already hoping for good support from government, and then COVID happens, we got ignored in Chiang Mai right through the worst of it. Also, we have to admit there was very poor support from the community level. All the fires are lit by human beings. I believe there's data from the national park that the last natural fire in Doi Satek was 25 years ago. You can tell from soil charcoal analysis. Apart from that, it's human beings lighting fires. So the community wouldn't support, Bangkok wouldn't support. We had a good governor, but the single command wasn't working, because with single command, it starts off at one channel, then goes into many channels. And on the ground level, you've got different firefighting units not coordinating. And then you've got a lot of other people doing nothing, like the military, sitting in barracks, hundreds of young men. And instead we've got old men going to fight fires and all the young men sitting in the barracks. And yet we get to them, the firefighters say, please help. The military say, no, we need a direct order from our commanding officer. You contact the 33rd Circle, they say we did an order from Pitts and Law, who said we did an order from Bangkok. So this single command thing, we need strong horizontal linkages on the ground level, both among community and among firefighters.
Thank you. Thank you. Kunwina, would you like to add anything to that?
Yeah, a good point that Kun Ben was talking about, which is the issue of working on certification of forest products. I think that is a fantastic thing. I also wanted to add to the issue of on the agribusiness aspects of this this problem, because there's links to the issues of contract farming. And I think one of the solutions that we've been tabling is to actually do entire supply chain linkages. So it's no different, and this is not finger pointing or anything, but it's just to say it's a whole situation where if any of the major producers say that their products are not linked to burning of natural forest at all, then please provide a full supply chain tracking. It's the same sort of situation that Nike had to deal with when they dealt with the issue of slave labor in their supply chain many years ago, and today they're one of the most highly respected companies, have one of the most transparent supply chain. And that's something that I think, if we take off our hats and say, okay, we will want to resolve this is something that private sector should be able to do. And that's something I wanted to add to the discussion. Thank you.
Okay, no, that's very true. I talked about the immediate environment of Chiang Mai, which is the mountain. If you look at Chiang Mai province, agro-industry is definitely a factor. But the share of agro-industry fires this year is less. And I believe also less the year before. So this year we are very much characterized, 80% plus are from fires in forest areas not linked to agriculture and agro-industry. But that is a problem. And there are so many different causes that need very different solutions. We need a comprehensive toolkit of different techniques, which every area must adapt in a very particular way, depending on the causes of fire in that community. There's no single answer at all here.
I think we
I
have
agree
a
with
question,
Ben. Yep.
question from Laura.
Yep.
Yeah, bringing in some of the themes I'm seeing in the questions. Weena, and Ben, as a follow-up, to this toolkit, the idea of a toolkit of multifaceted solutions that act at different levels. Weena, I know you've been very involved in the policy conversations at the national level as well as throughout the country, but what are some of the steps that can be taken to get to that point based on the work that you're doing to have that solution set in the future and have the strong air policy?
I think one of the things that which Kun Ben also alluded to, that's the case in northern Thailand, but it's also the case throughout the country, is we are missing a lot of data. So just on PM2.5 data, I think Thailand already started monitoring it in the end of 2018 or end of 17 at earliest. I think it is in 2018. So data, basic data is still missing. Dr. Mom mentioned the issue about data as well, and we are missing data on issues on when a physician sees a patient, they check the history of that patient, and sometimes they can pull together and realize, oh, this person has respiratory issues, and he happens to be living next to a highly polluting factory or something like that. And there's a tick box that doctors can put in the record, but a lot of them are not doing that. So that is also a problem at a very basic data level. Beyond that, we're hugely missing information related to industrial pollution. Industrial pollution sources in developed countries, about 100 to 200 different pollutants are being tracked. In Thailand, our numbers are like 3 to 4. So at a very basic level, we can't work without having the right data. And that's what we're missing. At least once you know the source of the problem, you can deal with it directly. And that's the frustrating part, not just in Chiang Mai, but also in let's say Bangkok. Because in Bangkok, we keep hearing figures mentioned that, industrial emission is responsible for maybe 5, at most 10% of industrial pollution, of the air quality problem we have in Bangkok. But that doesn't make any logical sense because there's about 140,000 factories around the country. About 70,000 of those are within the areas close to Bangkok. So it doesn't make sense. And then when you dig deeper, you find out, oh, they don't have the data to even verify the numbers. So that's the part that I think at a very ground level, we're still missing to be able to tackle. Because once you don't know the actual root of the problem, it's hard to address it. And I think that's the first immediate step that we need.
Do you want to talk about your white paper, the white paper?
Yes, sure. Yes, yeah, true. Thanks for the segue. So what the Thailand Clean Air Network did in May of last year is we brought together all the experts within the field to put together a very basic layman's guide as to the entire issue of air pollution in Thailand. So it's sort of like an appetizer, if you will, of what the issues are. What we've done now is then we've moved forward from that and we're developing a second paper called the Clean Air Blue paper. And that's a result of a lot of field work that we've done, a lot of analyzing a lot of the research paper, where we went into talking about the actual sources of the problem, right? So what are the impacts that we see of air pollution? And we talk to all sorts of stakeholders. So it's civil society, we speak to companies, we speak to regulators, we speak to governments, because ultimately this is a problem that needs everybody to solve. So we've just completed that literally within the past few weeks. It's a 140-page document, all in Thai. We're looking to translate that soonish into English. And the final phase that we're going to move into is we're going to develop the final paper, which is the Clean Air Green paper. And with that, that is going to be the actual solutions. As I said, it's a very difficult problem. It's very complex. And the way we approach the solution needs to be equally as multifaceted. Our group believes in the bottom-up approach. We can't solve problems from an ivory tower. You need to understand, Ben alluded to it, you need to understand the actual causes, the actual reasons from each area up. And so we look upon this process as actually galvanizing the support and the input from every facet of society to try and find win-win solution that works for everybody. It works for private companies, it works for civil society, it works for the regulatory government. And that's what we're trying to achieve. And that should be out sometime next year. So that's how we're moving it, because we ultimately believe that for us to actually have clean air, we need to have it not as an emergency problem that you resolve within the next 1 or 2 weeks and then you forget about it and it comes back again. So we're trying to push for a bottom-up legislation to actually have a Clean Air Act for Thailand, which is something that Thai citizens, regardless of your political affiliations or your organizational affiliations, it is something that you understand, that you've been involved in some form or fashion, you understand the solutions, and you really want to support this. Only then we truly believe that we have a shot at resolving this air pollution situation. And it's not just going to be about just solving it from a law perspective. We're also looking in terms of implementation processes as well, because as we know, it's very complex in terms of how regulation is being done in Thailand to monitor air pollution. And that needs to be looked into in a very level-headed and very systematic manner.
Definitely.
Sorry, I went a bit too long.
No, that's perfect.
Coming in here, thank you, Ina. There's been a couple good comments and other questions following on to the data point that you made, and this is open to the panelists, but I know, Ina, you may want to comment on this as well. So the comment is that, we're talking about baseline data now. That's a common challenge across many different issues, the lack of data, but how to make sure that doesn't persist into the future. So, how are we working with local universities to make sure that those data gaps are filled, and or other partners? And Ben and Dr. Mon, you may have examples from your work as well about how we're filling these data gaps and understanding the situation more fully.
So let me just jump in on the data solution problem really quick. So there is huge data gap. We looked into this problem as a public health emergency, and it really is a public health emergency and a public health problem. And one of the issues we found is that a lot of people do have data, but everyone's working in silos. And so what we've come in to try and break that silo, because ultimately the collective data is what's needed to try and resolve this. What we've done is we've actually started a platform. It's called Citizen Air, or short, we've abbreviated as CAIR. And this is an open source platform where all the air monitoring system would be submitted into one place, so that everybody understands what the actual air quality problem is in their part of where they live. Because the issue is there's limitations on budgets to try to install these official air monitoring stations. They're very, very expensive. So what we're doing is we're supplementing this with air monitoring systems that already exist. So there are systems, for example, Dust Boy, that's in up north. There's White Giant. There's CU Sense from the University of, from Chulalongkorn University. There are systems out down south that are being managed from the university down there. So we're bringing all this together, and we're also trying to bring in on board as well the individual sensors as well. We'll have very clear standards as to how you do this, so we're not getting rubbish in, rubbish out. But with that, at least if you're living in a part of Thailand where there's not enough official monitoring stations, for example, northeastern Thailand only has 3 official or air monitoring stations. So with the digital data, you have at least a picture of the air quality within your region. So at a bare minimum, you can take the necessary steps to protect yourself. So basically, if you have a child under the age of 5, that child should not be running, 45 minutes in open air on days where air quality is really bad. So at the bare minimum, we're trying to achieve this so people can actually at least protect themselves.
Others want to come in on the data front? I know.
Can I say a bit?
Please.
Okay, we really are weak in Chiang Mai on particulate analysis, the sources and composition of PM2.5. Now, this is an area where I've been very much promoting Dr. Sompon, working closely with her, because she is one of the key researchers looking into the sources of PM2.5, biomarkers of different, vegetative matter, biomass, whether it's from rice straw burning or from maize, or from dry dipterocarp leaf, or from other types of leaf. Her research is year by year is getting there, but so very soon we'll have that. One of her interesting research points, she'll tell you next week, is that for 1 rai of burning area of forest produces twice as much PM2.5 as 1 rai of a maize field. So burning forest isn't just, it's giving twice as much PM2.5 air pollution. Data like that is key to policymakers if we're looking at our health. Also in Chiang Mai, the governor asked last year, he asked again, every district office, what are the actual causes of fire? Just counting hotspots. We're quite good at counting hotspots now. But what is the cause of each hotspot? Again, the governor says we should have that information this year. Because without these 2 parts of key data, particulate analysis and causes of fire, how can you have any policy to control air pollution? It's a real weakness.
Thanks.
I think we have one more question for you, Kun Ben. What is the biggest challenges in mobilizing people to act? Is it lack of awareness about the issue, lack of hope to change things? So the biggest challenge.
Sorry, can you say that again? The biggest challenge to what?
Mobilizing people to act.
Okay, now that's a good one. Yes, because in the north, we've really mobilized well. Civic society networks, academics have been mobilized, NGOs. But unfortunately, there's terrible rivalry between the different groups. rivalry between different academics. One academic saying, don't listen to them, they don't know what they're talking about, we know best, you need prescribed burning. Another lot saying, no, we must have zero burning. The same with NGO networks supporting urban people, NGO networks supporting the ethnic minorities. So now there's pressure from ethnic minorities to get rid of the governor before his zero burning policy. So complete discord between experts and the network. We've over-mobilized and we just can't talk with one voice. It's really frustrating to central government who've often asked, and also international donors have asked, can't Chiang Mai just write a clear white paper, 5 clear points, what is the problem in Chiang Mai? But we just can't get our act together. I don't know what to say. Get a consensus of all these different issues. You know, we're our own worst enemy, you might say, in this.
I have one more question from the Mentimeter, and then I think we'll need to wrap it up in a little while. But through the doc, turning to the medical side again for our Dr. guest, which actions that are set up to tackle the COVID outbreak could be utilized to tackle air pollution in your experience? So maybe those that are realistic, affordable, and would have a long-term change and effect on public health.
I'm not sure about this question, but if you mean the preparedness of us to tackle the COVID, you mean treating the patient, I don't think that will imply for us to tackle the air pollution. But I think the other way around is that with this pandemic happening, I think we had learned a very expensive lesson, and I think we would be a very stupid species as a whole, humanities, if we don't look back and find out what we did wrong and what we should do in the future. Because I think this pandemics, actually it's not the first outbreaks are happening in a few years. The trend is increasing in a few years, and this has been been a link between the biodiversity loss, the climate change, and the this pandemics zoonosis, that there is a spilled over a virus from the animals to human. And I think this just reflects our disrespect of nature, and we should change the way we behave as a humanity. So I think with that, if we think that if we had this lesson, so we had to go back and prepare, not to repeat these mistakes again. That's it. I think what is think. I think there's a vicious cycle between the PM2.5, the air pollutions, and the climate change and forest fire, because the more we burn the forest, of course, we release CO2 in the air, and we get even more climate problem, and that you cause the fire to get worse, and by destroy the forest, the risk of contact with people and animals and things like that will be, we will face even more risk of having next pandemics.
Thanks.
Okay, I have one question. May I?
Yes, please.
Yeah, because from the business class, there are some business who really want to stop doing their sustainability practices due to the COVID-19. What will you convince them that if you stop solving the climate problems, so it is good decision or it's not, or what is your recommendation to talk with them. Thank you.
Can I ask? Okay, I'll take a shot at answering that one.
Yeah, go ahead, Mina.
Okay. Okay. As someone who's worked in the private sector and have done a lot of investments as well, so I do understand that space. I think from a private sector perspective, and I think COVID gives you a very clear example, it's about risk management. And a lot of companies have not taken into account risk management from a perspective of climate. In economics terms, anything that is external is called such as environment or social issues or governance issues is classified as an externality. That means it's not computed in your costs. So when you're looking at your IRR calculations, you're not internalizing any of these costs. And as you can see right now, by not internalizing some of these costs, it's having a huge impact, right? Talk about the hotel industry. Their occupancy rates are down, what, 90%, 100%? This is having a true financial impact on your bottom line. So I think it is time when people talk about new normal, it's time actually for businesses to start reassessing their businesses from a purely risk perspective. Have you accounted for all these risks? Take about climate change, right? Let's say, have you accounted for what will happen to your businesses? You know, we only have 10 years to go before the earth, if we continue this way, the earth is going to heat up so much. The cost of damage is tremendous. You can talk to anybody in the insurance industry. They know this very well. That is having an impact in terms of cost, in terms of dollars and cents. So I think it's a mindset issue rather than anything else. And there are very strong leaders out there, business leaders, who have taken upon and reflected well in terms of the issues of these types of issues. For example, on the financial side, every single year, Larry Fink, who manages the biggest fund in the world, he has always talked about this issue in terms of how they manage. They're trying to look for this environmental social governance issue. This is not something fluffy, something for tree huggers. This is real costs that people need to take into account. I think when they have that mindset, I think they can find solutions to it. There are solutions to being more green. There's solutions, there's jobs to be made for doing renewable energy. There's jobs you can generate from doing organic farming. There are solutions out there. It's just your willingness to be able to take this on board and look at it from a business lens.
Yeah, I'd like to add on that. I can't agree more. I think because we usually when we look at the economic growth, you know, we be doing a lot of time we don't do the calculate our account properly, and we miscalculated. We thought we made a lot of profit by selling animals food, maize or whatever, but we left out the cost on environment and ecosystem degradation, its consequence that follows. I think we hadn't put that in the budget, in the account, so we miscalculated most of the time.
So I think we have about 5 minutes left, and we're gonna do some final last points and what can people do, right? How can you contribute? So maybe Kunvina, would you like to start? Just the final words, sure. Last points.
Yeah, I know the situation sounds very daunting, and when things are daunting, people have a tendency to just shut it down. And as we can see, when we ignore things, it does come to bite us in some way or fashion or form. What we've tried to do, we've done different things and to have people involved. I think, first of all, you can follow what we're doing. We have a website. It's called Thailand Can Clean Air Network .org. We also have a lot of, we post issues on a Facebook page called Thai Prompt, Thai Prompt, ภาษาไทยนะคะ, or Thai Prompt in English. We have also started a campaign, a petition to push for a Clean Air Act. So that's something else that you can do to support that. And there's various other initiatives as well, but those are initial ones. And when we start with the green paper process, there will be a lot of public consultation that we will get involved with. So if you're interested, get involved, understand the issues, because ultimately we are all breathing this air and it is affecting our lives and our well-being.
Thank you. And Kun Ben, and do we have Elisa here with us?
Hi.
Hi. Hi, would you like to talk a little bit about Social Giver, or would you like Kun Ben to go first?
Oh, well, let's have Kun Ben go first.
Okay, well, I'll just say some final comments, right? Well, I'll just, my final comment is from a firefighter in one of the forest areas. And he said, Ben, if you want to help, please can you try to explain to a cabinet minister the complexity of the fire issue. They really don't understand. When they come to visit, they have a very simplistic understanding of the causes of fires. Please ask someone in your group to try to explain the complexity of fires to cabinet ministers. So I'm just passing on that request, and I won't name the firefighter, obviously, because I think it's quite a relevant thing to say. Thank you.
Thank you. And now let's hear from Social Giver.
Hi, actually, I wanted to really thank Ben, Rena. I think you really nailed the situation very well. Dr. Rangsit, meeting you again is also my pleasure after our reforestation project up north, and we get to have a chance to meet you. We know that a lot of people who are living there are working very hard to solve the problem. I find that the way that Kun Weena actually presented the whole case is something that a lot of people, even in Bangkok, needs to hear. You know, it's not just about international donors that are very interested. A lot of people are coming to Social Giver requesting to be able to support initiatives up north because they either have relatives there or they just feel that, you know, we're all breathing in the same air. And so I know that it has also been our mission to also try to find somebody that we can support, but it really comes down to what you all have mentioned about providing the right data points and actually presenting it as also a way to do risk management. From what Social Giver is doing, it is more from a public engagement perspective where we create a platform for people to be able to make that donation. I know that a lot of people actually get to know Social Giver not just from a donation standpoint, but rather from engaging in various lifestyle activities, such as hotels, restaurants, or activities that are going on in various parts in Thailand, while at the same time being able to support a social cause, because every single brand that is on the Social Giver platform has provided their service for free because they care about the social project that they're raising funds for. And so that's why we have been quite strict in selecting the different types of projects in which we would want to move forward with, because we know that one of the key things that donors want is also the effective use of funds, or seeing this being solved from what Kun Weena also mentioned, from the root cause. And I know that from Kun Ben's perspective, I am actually like opening up a lot of the things that I had in mind, that there's so many dimensions to this. Right. And so once we're able to kind of pinpoint the real direction on, it might not be just one point, most definitely, but how can we actually translate this to let the lay people to understand how can they take part. This would actually allow them to also, you know, be the eyes and ears, and at the same time ask these questions and start moving that forward, even from, you know, from their small family units. And I really love the idea of creating that sustainable forest products and how we can actually pursue that. I feel that this is something that we cannot just tell them to stop. I completely agree on this. You must find an alternative. And if there's something at all that Social Giver can do to help, we can help in terms of mobilizing more people to knowing about what you are trying to do, and also mobilizing funds into supporting those initiatives. But as Kun Ben said, it's also about making the right conversations with the people who are decision makers. And of course, with the general public, I think this is also another way to communicate this story so people are very clear. I think we have a lot of mixed stories coming through to Social Giver as well. And it's hard for even me to kind of distinguish, like, where is it that we want to be able to draw the line? And so consider our platform an open platform for people to propose any project that they want to raise funds for. We have very clear like social impact metrics that we can work with you on, so that the different donors that come in, both personal, as an individual, or even as corporate donors, can also understand more about the initiative and how the social impact they want to be able to push forward. So I know that this is not the typical way in which Social Giver works, but most recently, because Social Giver, we also have to say that we also want to be able to donate 100% to the social projects, allowing for us to, we actually don't deduct any fees at all. We feel that one of the key things is to ensure that the project also takes that commitment to delivering the social impact that they hope to achieve. I know that it is not easy. Sometimes there will be some failures before we actually get there, but as a donor, I'm sure that we would all want to be able to see some sort of progress, but it all takes, a lot of us into the conversation and at least letting us open up our minds a little bit. And it's not just about one particular group to blame. Yeah. So anyways, in wrapping up, like for Social Giver, we can actually stay in touch for other future support that you might need for our platform. You can go in to see more information on socialgiver.com or just message me and the team if you have any other.
Yeah.
Go, Laura. You can go first.
No, go ahead. I couldn't tell if it broke up, but we'd love to hear from Dr. Mong for a final word from you as well.
Yeah, well, I just want to leave that. I think, as I just said, I think we all have to, come together and learn our mistakes and try not to repeat the mistakes that we've done, and we have to go back to, and understand what we should do, what we should not do to prevent this catastrophe repeating again. That's it.
Thank you so much, and bringing Courtney back as well. Courtney, are you with us?
I am. Okay, so just in terms of wrapping up and next steps, first and foremost, I want to say thank you to everyone that is joining live here. We had over 100 people register and almost most of them joining live with us. This is a series, so we have 2 more happening, one next Wednesday and the following Wednesday as well. But then it couldn't go without saying big thanks to our speakers with incredible amount of experience and expertise, and to the moderation by the organizing team. So just to add a little context as well, we've been working as a 100% volunteer-driven group, as mentioned before. And 2 weeks ago, we thought, okay, what can we do? COVID has changed everything in terms of our plan, which was really about creating a town hall, a space for more citizen engagements, community pop-ups, things of that nature, specifically about solving this issue and getting the Thailand Clean Air Act moving forward with the Thailand Clean Air Network. And of course, we're moving all digital. And I'm just wanted to also thanks everyone for the hard work to put it together, and we've done it. So it's great to have the group of people that we do have. But the next 2, we thematically sequenced this. This one is setting the stage. What is the context? What are the linkages to be explored in regards to air pollution, COVID, as well as policy? This is a critical part. Of course, the underpinning is civil society. So next Wednesday, we're going to focus on the case study in the context of Northern Thailand. We'll hear more about, as Kun Ben just mentioned, the researchers that have been exploring this from more of a science and evidence-based approach and lens. There's a lot of emotion around the headlines, but what does the content of the dynamics, the complexity look like? The third one, May 6th, is really about what can we do? And so we're going to hear from others from the private sector lens, civil society as well, and across the board. So this is something that we are going to continue to build upon. It's not going to end. As Weena just referred, it's not an emergency to be popped away for 2 weeks and then it comes back and we have to deal with it again. It's a long road. So with that being said, if you signed up, we will share a follow-up. So we have your email. We'll share the follow-up to this, as well as some of the opportunities to engage further if you wish. But other than that, we really look forward to hopefully seeing you next week and the following as well. So with that, just a big thank you. And we'll share the recording, the notes, all of that will be well documented and shared as well. So thanks again.
Thank you to all the speakers and team and everyone tuning in. Thank you.
Thanks very much, everyone.